In this video, we are going to be picking every single bowl game of the college football postseason using this ESPN Bowl Mania thing that gets all of the bowl games there for us to pick. It also tells us the odds handily and how many people are picking that game in terms of like a percentage. So it's actually pretty cool and a pretty easy way to do it. I actually have my own entry I've created in here, so you can actually go ahead and join. I've got the link in the bio for you to join the Bowl Mania group if you want to see how our picks compare head to head. As the time I record this, there's actually two that are already wrapped up, and I did do a video a little bit ago where I picked like the first week of bowl games, but I think I'm going to change my tune on that a little bit. I think we're just going to do them all in this video instead, as it seems like there's a little bit less interest in bowl season this year, which is a little sad. I'm a bowl traditionalist, but figured might as well just knock it out in one fell swoop here, have it all in one place for you guys to see. So full transparency, I picked South Carolina State in this game, and they get beat by Jackson State pretty handily in that game. So the Celebration Bowl goes to them, so that puts me at 0-1. And then I did pick South Alabama to beat Western Michigan. They didn't have any real issues. Western Michigan got off to a hot start in that game, but ends up fizzling out down the stretch, kind of like how their season went. So a nice win for Major Applewhite's squad. I thought he had a fantastic first year at South Alabama. So that takes us to some of these other games. We've got the Scooters Coffee Frisco Bowl between Memphis and West Virginia. I already went into kind of my in-depth analysis on this game and my pick. I ended up picking Memphis to win this one. I just think they have a more complete roster. Obviously, they're not without their head coach like West Virginia is. West Virginia fired Neil Brown already. And like I said, with these first couple, I'm going to kind of breeze through them a little bit because you guys already know my thoughts on them if you've already seen the other bowl video. And that's just going to be a few videos back if you haven't caught that already. We got Western Kentucky against James Madison. Another one where both of the rosters are actually in a tough spot. Both their quarterbacks will be out, one because Caden Beltcamp entered the portal and the other because he's injured. So we'll see. I just trust James Madison's offense a little bit more to be able to manufacture some offense. I actually picked Cal in a lot of places in this one, but I decided to flip-flop to UNLV. Mendoza hitting the portal, some key guys out for Cal, and I think it puts UNLV in a better position because they're a little bit more intact, which is frankly what a lot of these games come down to, is who has the more intact roster. Georgia Southern against Sam Houston is another one where Georgia Southern, Sam Houston without their head coach Casey Keeler, as he took the job at Temple already, and Georgia Southern still has a lot of their guys there as well. Ohio versus Jacksonville State, another one from that video. I actually ended up rocking with Ohio in that game, despite the fact that they lost their head coach, because Jacksonville State also did. So really, it's pick your poison, a couple of teams that dominated in their conference title games. So those are all the ones I picked in the other video, which is why we went a little bit more drive-by on those. And we'll pick here. We got the Gasparilla Bowl, Tulane versus Florida. This one, a matchup that is it was pretty exciting on paper, but with no Darian Mensah, with no Ty Thompson, Florida is going to be the heavy favorite here, and you see the odds reflect that. And so I think the Gators will win. It's also the MacGuffin game for those of you who know what that is. I'm a little conflicted on whether or not I should pick the playoff games here in this video because I'm only going to be doing the full bracket predictions in another video, and I don't know if I necessarily want to spoil those predictions here. So we'll go past those playoff games here and get to the Myrtle Beach Bowl because this video is about the bowl games. So in the Myrtle Beach Bowl, we've got Coastal Carolina versus UTSA. I really think both rosters are actually in a kind of difficult spot. But I do think Coastal sort of finds a way to win this one. I know the odds are actually pretty heavily in favor of UTSA, but it's just one of those ones where I think that the young players that are going to be required to step up for Coastal Carolina in this game are going to put them in a better position to win than UTSA's. And I think that Tim Beck's squad can end on a high note. It was a really weird year for them, a lot of ups and downs. For the Chanticleers. Hopefully they can rebound and have a better next season for Tim Beck and what will end up being a pretty critical, pivotal year for them. And for UTSA, definitely a disappointing year for them as well. Both these teams had conference championship aspirations and end up in this bowl as 6-6 teams. NIU Fresno State, sadly, is another one where we're seeing a lot of portal stuff for both sides. I'm going to pick Fresno State. Again, with these types of games, I find them a little bit difficult to talk about with all of the opt-outs because you can't really give too sound a reasoning. You can hone in on some of their young players, but there's so many factors at play here. I'm just going to rock with Fresno State a little closer to home in the Idaho Potato Bowl. South Florida versus San Jose State is another one where I'm going to rock with San Jose State, actually. These guys a little bit more intact than some of these other games, and Kenny Matalolo's squad really, I think, just showed that they weren't a fluke this year. They actually were a legit team that won a lot of important games, and I think a little bit of a disappointing year for Alex Golish and the South Florida Bulls in his second season. You kind of expected to see another leap, another step in the right direction, but to be fair, they played a really tough schedule. I think they end on a lower note with a loss to San Jose State in the Hawaii Bowl, and it's a little closer to home for San Jose State, a lot closer to home, I should say. South Florida having to travel quite a ways, but I'm sure they'll take it. It's better than no bowl game. We've got Pitt versus Toledo in the Sports Bowl, the game above Sports Bowl. Pitt was 7-0. They lose 5 in a row to end the season, but Toledo on a skid of their own. They lost to Akron at the end of the year as well. Definitely both teams in a bit of a difficult position, but both coaches are guys that have committed to their teams. You've got Jason Candle with Toledo. You've got Pat Narduzzi with Pitt. So both program guys, and I think Pitt's going to get the win here, a team that is obviously favored. A lot of people rocking with the Panthers, and I think it's the Power Conference team versus a team that is experiencing another subset of issues, including losing to Akron. That's not very good. So Rutgers versus Kansas State is the next one here. Another one, very similar tone. A couple of teams and programs that are really committed, and I think the players will be invested that are there. We'll see some young guys step up for both these teams. These programs care about their bowl game still, and so I'm going to take Kansas State to win this one against Rutgers and have some of their guys step up and get them a nice victory. However, Rutgers did show up really well in their bowl game last season, so we will see how they perform in this one. Arkansas State and Bowling Green are matching up. A couple of teams that had really nice seasons in the Sun Belt and in the MAC, and I think Butch Jones' squad is going to be the one that gets a win here. Look for Jalen Rayner to step up. I like the fact that Arkansas State has been able to mostly keep things together. Same cannot be said about a lot of their American or their Sun Belt Conference counterparts. This one is really fun on paper. Navy playing Oklahoma, the midshipmen, trying to keep it together. Oklahoma's had some portal noise, some portal buzz, and that makes things interesting. Navy looked really good in that game versus Army and get a dominant victory. Like, could they upset Oklahoma in this game? I've kind of gone back and forth in it, but why not? Let's pick Navy to upset Oklahoma, an SEC opponent that's going to see a lot of turmoil. And we've seen these SEC teams fold in on themselves in these bowl games when that happens. And so we'll see for Oklahoma. Despite the fact they finished the season strong, there's just a lot going on with that locker room and that team right now. Georgia Tech and Vandy, teams that are facing in the bowl game, in the Birmingham Bowl, really underrated bowl game. Just a couple of programs where it's the same boat. Their guys are going to be playing. Their guys are going to be invested. They are better than their record says they are. So that's going to be a lot of fun, and I'm looking forward to seeing this matchup. I like Vandy in this game. I think they've played a lot better when they're underdogs. So has Georgia Tech, to be fair. I know Georgia Tech has looked really good the last couple of times we saw them and the last time we saw them versus Georgia, but Vanderbilt has also got some dudes. So really, either way, you're picking against a team that has been used to getting picked against all season. So it's kind of a lose-lose in that regard, but I do like Vandy in this football game. Texas Tech and Arkansas taking each other on in the AutoZone Liberty Bowl. Texas Tech has had a few key transfers and key opt-outs at this point, and I believe they're actually going to be without Baron Morton, which is why this one is a pick-em here. Arkansas, I believe, is still going to have Taylon Green for this football game. However, Texas Tech has just eaten SEC schools for breakfast in these bowl games as of late, and so I think they're just going to get it done again. It's been a recent trend, and Arkansas also battling their own portal stuff right now. Syracuse and Washington State is a matchup. Washington State will have no John Mateer. He's their electric playmaker, and no Chris Hudson either, so their offense is going to be severely handicapped. Meanwhile, everyone's playing for Syracuse, so Fran Brown and the Orange should probably get a blowout victory here in the Holiday Bowl. I am very confident on this one. If you're doing confidence-based picking in the Bowl Mania, crank this one all the way up to the top. USC and Texas A&M taking each other on. The Trojans have just watched opt-out after opt-out after opt-out slink through. Miller Moss is in the portal. Zachariah Branch is in the portal. They still have Mayava. They still have some dudes, but for the Aggies, who have also experienced some portal stuff of their own, it just feels like there's a little bit more meat on the bone for them. So I'm going to pick Texas A&M in that one. UConn and North Carolina take each other on in the Fenway Bowl. I just think UConn's going to be a lot more motivated in this football game, have a lot more of their guys ready to play, and that's honestly what a lot of these games are going to boil down to. North Carolina fired Mac Brown, has some key opt-outs as well. Boston College and Nebraska going to play in the Bad Boy Mowers Pinstripe Bowl. Really love Nebraska in this game. It's a team that I think is ready. They've got Dylan Raiola, who's still hungry. They've got a team that I think is playing well at the right time. They get that late win in the season to get them to bowl eligibility. So they'll be motivated. They'll be ready. Boston College has a decent squad as well, but we've certainly seen a few of those portal additions. A couple programs building in the right direction that will enjoy themselves a bowl game. Boston College, because this has been the highlight of their season for the last 15 years, is just bowl games. And for Nebraska, because it's the first time in a while they've made it. Louisiana and TCU fight in the New Mexico Bowl. Both teams regionally pretty close to New Mexico, so it's nothing too crazy here. TCU minus 500, as you can see, and that's because we've seen some of those opt-outs for Louisiana biting them, unfortunately, and I do think TCU is the better team. I probably would have picked them regardless of what the opt-out status was for this game. Iowa State versus Miami is one I'm excited for because we've heard very little buzz about people entering the portal and opting out. I think both teams are going to be very ready for this game. Iowa State is a team that lost in the conference title game. Miami just barely missing out. I think they're both going to be playing with a chip on their shoulder as a result, kind of playing to be like, hey, we probably should have been in the playoff, or we should have had more consideration. I'm going to pick Iowa State in this one, though. I think that some of their playmakers like Higgins and Knoll are going to step up, and I think that this offense is still going to find a way to cook, and they're going to play as a unit, and they're going to play well in the Pop-Tarts Bowl, and then they're going to consume the mascot, which is one of the greatest traditions in college sports now. And a prime example for any bowl game of how to stay relevant, eat your mascot. We've got the Snoop Dogg Arizona Bowl, Miami of Ohio versus Colorado State. Another one that's pretty interesting. A couple of teams that were conference title contenders in their respective conferences up till the end there. And another one where their teams, I think, will be ready to play. I think Colorado State's going to get this one done, finish with 9 wins. A pretty successful season and what's been a really nice rebuild for Jay Norvell. Just got to keep it rolling. We go to the Military Bowl, East Carolina versus NC State. I'm hyped for this one because regardless of who's going to be playing, it's going to be a game with some bad blood between in-state rivals. And I like East Carolina to get up for this game and win this one. They obviously nearly took out NC State a couple of years ago, the Wolfpack needing to boot a field goal at the last second to win that one. So East Carolina has been fired up for these kinds of games, and I think they'll be ready and they'll get the win right there. We've got BYU against Colorado in the Alamo Bowl, another one where I think a lot of their guys are going to be playing in this game. Coach Prime has already confirmed we're going to see the Heisman Trophy winner for the last time in college, most likely, and so I'm going to take Colorado. I think Travis Hunter steps up, makes some plays, gets some flashy highlights going, and I think they beat a BYU team that will also be invested, and they'll have their guys ready to play. Really fun bowl game there. That's going to epitomize bowl season, basically, and what's great about it. Louisiana Tech basically getting the shoe-in last-second pity invite because Marshall opts out of the Independence Bowl. I think Army's going to win this one. Yes, they lose to Navy. That's a weird game. That's a rivalry game where they're playing the triple option versus triple option. A lot can happen there, and I look for Army to bounce back and beat Louisiana Tech. It is really fun to see Sonny Cumbie's squad get another chance, though, but really do not like their odds in that game at all. We've got the Music City Bowl here, Missouri and Iowa, the matchup. Missouri being heavily picked by the people, but you see those odds. It's actually not that crazy different. I do like how Missouri was playing at the end of the season, however. I think they finally rounded out into the team a lot of people thought they could be, and I look for them to put together a 10-win season. That's pretty impressive, and Drinkwitz has had some teams that they don't disappear in the bowl game. So you think of the Ohio State game last year and their bowl game. They've been ready, and I think that they will be invested and they will play well in that game. We've got Alabama versus Michigan in the ReliaQuest Bowl. It'd be really funny if Michigan wins, but it really just doesn't feel like that's going to be the case here. Bama has had some key players opt out, but I think they're going to be pretty cohesive as a unit. Michigan, I think, maybe a little bit more intact, maybe has some momentum after the Ohio State win, but not enough to take down Alabama in this bowl game. The Sun Bowl is between Louisville and Washington. This one's on New Year's Eve this year, which is pretty fun. The Sun Bowl one I went to last year, pretty fun environment. And I don't know. This one's a little confusing for me. I don't know who I'm going to pick going into this one. I think Louisville's going to be the pick for me because of Jeff Brom and his squad, but Washington could certainly end it on a high note. I think they're better than their 6-6 record indicates. Sorry if that analysis was not super satisfactory. This is honestly a game I just have not thought a ton about, and now I'm looking at it now and just almost picking on the spot with that one. South Carolina versus Illinois is a matchup in the Citrus Bowl. That is another one of those highlighted matchups. South Carolina favored pretty heavily in this matchup. However, I think that Illinois not getting enough credit for what they did throughout the season. I do recognize, however, that South Carolina is arguably the hottest team in the country. They're going to have all their guys playing. Another case of a young quarterback that's hungry and still going to be playing, and I love that in these bowl games. So give me South Carolina and Sellers to end on a high note, get to that 10th win, and really build some momentum for that program headed into next season. I think they're going to wreak havoc defensively as well on Illinois. We got Baylor versus LSU here. This one, a battle in the Texas Bowl, and it's a team that's red hot. Baylor on a 6-game winning streak. I think they're going to keep it going. It's a pick'em versus LSU. Very few people rocking with LSU. And LSU, was not playing terrible at the end of the year either. They had a few get away from them that they wish they could have had. But Baylor, man, they're playing like a unit right now, and they're going great. We've got all of these semifinal matchups that we're going to just skip over, keep the focus on bowl season. The Tax Slayer Gator Bowl, Duke versus Ole Miss. Duke has had a great season. Malik Murphy hitting the portal, though, really, really hurts them, and it's the reason you see the odds so skewed in the Rebels' favor. And another one, a hungry quarterback, Jackson Dart, that wants to play, wants to win it for his team, for the logo, for his coach. And as a result, I think they're just going to be more unified. They're going to beat Duke. However, Manny Diaz and that squad have been winning games they're not supposed to win all year. So does he have one more magic trick to pull a rabbit out of the hat and get the 10th win? We'll see with Duke. That would be pretty nuts, though. North Texas and Texas State go together in this first responder bowl. I love it when we see these in-state rivals play in the state of Texas. And I like Texas State. GJ Kinney's squad suffered some injuries throughout the year. I think they're going to get healthy. They haven't had too much portal noise. I think they'll stick together and get a win here. Ismail Mahdi hitting the portal, though, definitely a tough blow for them. But North Texas has had the tougher blows, and Chandler Morris going is one of those tough blows. We've got the Duke's Mayo Bowl. They pour mayo on the head coach that wins. That'll be pretty fun. And I think we're going to see PJ Fleck get some mayo dumped on him. It's an example of a Minnesota team that's right in the right territory as a 7-5 team where they're just still invested. They're not disappointed by this result. They are motivated and ready for this bowl game, and they'll get the win in the bowl game. And then I believe we have the final pick here because we're not picking those playoff games, which is the Buffalo Bulls versus the Liberty Flames. And I see it's a kind of a pick'em here, which is interesting to me. Pete Lembo's squad definitely crushed expectations in his first season. Liberty, maybe a little bit of a disappointing year. I do think the MAC was a little stronger than the CUSA this year, so I'm going to pick the team that won 8 games in that conference instead of Liberty. So that's going to get us to all of the picks here in every single bowl game. That wraps it up. But you guys will have to let me know down in the comments. What do you think about my picks here? What picks are you rocking? What picks do you disagree with? And if you haven't already, go ahead and join the Bowl Mania down in the comments. And let me know down in the comments, what is your favorite part of bowl season? Do you still care about bowl season? And will you be watching any of these games? Rest of the content from here on out will be largely college football playoff based. We'll get the picks off later this week for the actual bracket, the full bracket. Didn't want to spoil them in here, and I understand if you're frustrated by that maybe, but we'll do that in a later video, trust me. So look for all that content, and as usual, if you enjoy it, like, comment, subscribe. A lot of you are not subscribed, but you watch the videos, and you probably think you're literally subscribed, and then you're going to check, and you're going to be surprised, and it's going to be funny. And I even saw someone comment on the last video where I said that, and they were like, hey, man, you were right. Like, I was totally not subscribed, and I thought I was. So pretty funny, but that's all I got for you guys today, and I will see you later this week.